Agent Zero is one of the most powerful AI agents ever built. It's completely free, and most people have no idea what it's capable of. Here's what makes it different from every other AI tool you use. It doesn't just answer questions, it can actually work. You give it a task, any task, and it figures out how to complete it on its own. It writes its own code, searches the internet, builds its own tools, and even creates little helper agents to work alongside it, all without touching a single line of code. Think about that for a second. You're basically handing a task to an AI employee, and walking away, it handles everything. Kind of similar to OpenClaw. And the best part is it's free, it's open source, you don't need to subscribe. There's no limits, just a genuinely powerful AI agent that you control. And over 15,000 developers are already using it, but it's not just for developers. Regular people are using Agent Zero to automate their entire workflows, manage projects, analyze data, and get hours of work done in minutes. So today we're going to do this together. We're setting up from scratch. We're testing it on real tasks. And I'm going to show you exactly what this thing can do and why it might be the useful AI tool you need to add to your life this year. Let's get straight into it. So you can see an example of Agent Zero right here. It's available on GitHub. And to get started, we've set this up. You could always run it through Claude Code and just ask it to get set up. We're going to start using this right now. You can see some example use cases. So it's a good general purpose assistant. You can use your computer as a tool. Multi-agent cooperation. So you can actually have like multiple sub-agents working together. It's customizable with skills. And also you can just give it prompts and use real world cases on it, like you can see right here. It also works with Docker as well, and it even has speech to text and text to speech as well. So we're going to be testing out today, seeing how it performs, and we'll just get it set up now. So we're going to open up Docker. If you don't have Docker already installed, you can get Docker installed for free, as you can see right here. And then from here, we can run the quick start inside terminal. So let's go to our terminal here. Open up a new window. This is actually for OpenClaw, this one. So we're going to copy that command. And now you can see it's beginning to install, as you can see. Vamp says, wait, I need a full tutorial for this to keep it local and free, which we'll come on to in a second. And you can see this should be beginning to run now inside the terminal. So that was pretty simple. And then once that's done, you can visit localhost 5001 to get this started. So it's running locally. Now you can see we've got an example of it running. All right, so that was really easy to set up. Literally just copy and paste some commands, you're good to go. And then from here, you've kind of got like a it feels a little bit like ChatGPT, but it's an agent that can actually do stuff, right? So if we, first of all, we need to go to our settings, we need to configure the chat model. You can use OpenRouter if you want, and you can get free APIs on OpenRouter as well, if you didn't already know that. Also, another option to keeping it local and free, as requested, is you could do something, you could use it with Ollama as well, I think. So if we go to the providers here, we could switch to Ollama and then change the model inside the model there. So I'm just going to stick with OpenRouter, and then we can go with Claude Sonnet 4.6. Obviously, I wouldn't use Sonnet 4.6 all the time. It can get a bit expensive, but for a quick test on a live stream, this is a quick way to set it up and get some good results. So now we're going to grab this API key, and then we'll go over to the API key section here, paste that in. And if you leave it empty on the chat model, this will keep it as default. Bear in mind, you have to set up the API for it to respond. Otherwise, it's just not going to reply to you because it's not using the AI model behind it. And then you've got a bunch of other options here. So you can see how if we scroll down, like the utility model, it's going to use OpenRouter, but now it's switched to Flash Preview, right? So if you want an easy setup with this, probably OpenRouter is pretty good because then you can have it like automatically route different things. So for example, like web browser, you've got the utility models, you've got the chat model, etc. Right? Like it's all set up and ready to go from here. So if we hit save like so, we've now got the API configured, which is pretty cool. Otteranari says, what is Agent Zero? Good question. All right. So let me explain exactly what it is and how it works. So Agent Zero is a free AI agent that can help you just automate different tasks, right? Most people don't even know it exists. It's not like, for example, OpenClaw, which has like great marketing. I do see people like David Andre create videos about Agent Zero, and he's got a really good channel about this sort of stuff. But most people are not talking about it, and that's one of the reasons most people don't know about it. But when I've tested it, before, it actually holds its own with stuff like OpenClaw, right? So what is Agent Zero? It's a free open source AI agent framework built to run on your computer or in a Docker container, right? It's not a chatbot. It's not a simple prompting tool. It is a fully autonomous AI agent that can think through multi-step problems, right? And create code, browse the internet, create and edit and manage files, spawn multiple sub-agents to work in parallel on different tasks, and remember everything that it learns, right? So most tools are like kind of one directional. You type, it answers, you ask, it responds. Agent Zero is more like a loop. So it gets a task, it plans, it acts, it creates, and it checks its own results. So it's less like having a chatbot and more like having an AI employee who never sleeps, never gets tired, never asks for stuff, and gets smarter every single day, right? And it was just updated recently to use Claude Sonnet 4.6. It's also got the skills system as well set up. So, any sort of skills that are compatible with Claude Code, OpenClaw, Codex, etc., are ready to use with Agent Zero as well. And if you're wondering, okay, what are the 5 things that help this? Well, the one, it uses your computer as a tool. So not just text, it actually creates terminal commands. It can spawn sub-agents. So you have like one brain, and then it can spawn different tasks to different agents in the background. It has persistent memory, so it can remember solutions code, facts, and instructions across multiple sessions. It is fully customizable. And then also it's free and open source, right? So those are the 5 useful things about this. Noisy says, why should we choose to use Agent Zero over others? I think you just got to test these things to see which one you prefer, right? Like for me, I don't really mind what I use, but I do like to test new things, try new things, and see which one works the best, right? And I'm always open to testing new things. When I've used Agent Zero in the past, it's pretty cool. So we're going to say, you see, it says, "Hey, I'm Agent Zero, your AI assistant. How can I help you?" And then if we say, "Hey, are you online?" Just double check that it's actually working and responding. Let's make sure. Ottonari says, I have a doubt it does the same work as OpenClaw, so what's new? I mean, like, we can test it versus OpenClaw later today in a different video. So, yes, I'm online, ready to help. What can I do for you today? So it's ready to go there. DJ says, is this safer to use on your own PC instead of another machine? So yeah, it's designed to run locally. Also, it's siloed away in Docker, right? But you do need to be careful with this stuff. Like if you're ever in doubt of using something, don't use it. Just watch my videos and learn from them instead. Like, if you have any doubts about using any AI tool, just don't use it. Like I always think that's the best philosophy. Better to be safe. And then Benny says not compatible with OpenClaw skills. So I think any skills, like any skill MD file, you could insert into into Agent Zero, right? Like it works on the same process. Like Claw Code, Codex, OpenClaw, all these AI agents use the same model for storing skills, which is the skill MD file. So any files or any skills you want to install on OpenClaw, you could probably install on Agent Zero as well, as far as I'm aware. But we can test that out. So now we've set that up, we're going to start up a new chat, and we can actually see what tasks are running over here. We have preferences as well, so we can switch between like, for example, we could even have like speech toggled on there as well if we wanted to. And then inside the chat here, we can start using it. So let's just run a basic sort of test. This is something I like to test on pretty much every single model, which is like just create a website like this, right? Or a better designed website. So I'm going to go over to Agent Zero here, paste that information. I'm going to say research my AI profit boardroom automation community, and then create a beautiful website page like it, right? And then what I'm also going to do is just take a screenshot of this website and say, just create a better version of this, right? And let's see if it can handle that. So we're going to test that out. You can see it's working right now. The other cool thing about this is kind of you get multiple chats on the same side, right? So if you have multiple tasks running on the left-hand side, the cool thing about that is that you can easily get this to complete multiple tasks at the same time, unlike OpenClaw where it kind of queues the messages that you send, right? Like you can't just send all your messages at once with OpenClaw. Whereas with Agent Zero, you can have multiple different agents running in parallel on the left-hand side, and then you're good to go. Okay? So you can see it's beginning to start working on that right now. It's writing the terminal commands. It seems pretty autonomous already. Like I didn't have to allow any permissions or anything like that, which I quite like. Otto and Ari says, what's your thought about like self-improvement AI and what's going to happen? So the way that I look at it is like, all of these tools, like even when I was preparing the notes for this live stream, like all of these tools are amazing, but they still require a lot of human interaction and a lot of direction, right? Now, I don't think that AI is going to replace people anytime soon, but I do think that really what's going to happen is you'll see a switch between people who can use AI and people who can't use AI. Because who's got more leverage, right? The person who can use AI. It's like being the modern day coder, right? Except you don't need to know how to code. You just need to know how to use these tools. And so the way that I see it is like right now, especially, these tools are amazing, but they're only as good as the person that uses them. And so what's the differentiator? It's your skill set, it's your experience, it's the way that you can use these tools and have the vision to direct them. And I think that's what makes the biggest difference with all of these. So you can see this is running in the background. I'm going to run another task now because that seems to be taking a while. So if we go over to Claude, I actually had some tests that I ran with Claude versus Gemini, and we can run some of those tests inside here today as well. So let's try and create this app right here for a Pomodoro timer. I'm going to take this prompt. Take this, and then we'll go back to Agent Zero. We'll plug that in. So now you can see it's working on multiple different tasks at the same time, which is pretty cool. Whereas if you were using something like OpenClaw, it doesn't tend to do things at the same time, right? It gets a bit confused sometimes, if that makes sense. So if we click on that file, we've got the HTML ready. If we open that up in a new tab, boom, we have the website ready to go. And that is looking pretty cool, right? That was super fast to generate. It's looking great first time round. Honestly, it may be better than the original if we actually compare these side by side. So this is the page on the left-hand side that Agent Zero has created. And then this is the page that OpenClaw actually created, right? And you can see here, for example, it's got like a nice rolling banner. It's got nice animations. These all sort of highlight when you go across them, whereas this kind of stays bland. I would genuinely say that we do have a better version of the website on the left-hand side. This looks a lot nicer. Now, bear in mind, we are using a good API. So we're using Claude Sonnet 4.6, which makes a huge difference. But at the same time, to one-shot a website like this in like one prompt is pretty amazing. So it's done well in the first task, and it didn't take too long to do. Also, the other cool thing about this is it's quite easy to just access that to download the HTML and then go from there. We've got this ready to go as well. Let's try installing some skills to this and seeing how it performs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to download SkillBoss, which is a tool that allows me to like create videos, create images, etc., connect to different APIs with SkillBoss. We're going to drag that inside here, and then we'll see if it can install that directly as a skill into Agent Zero. So I'm going to take this command like so, and then we'll go to Agent Zero and see if it can just figure this out, right? So I'm going to say attach skillboss.zip, please help me install this, and we'll see how that performs. Now, also, I like how clean the UI is as well, right? Like it's pretty simple and easy to use. It seems pretty fast when it's running as well. It's not really struggling with anything that I throw at it. And unlike, for example, if you're using something like OpenClaw, it can break a lot. It can get confused. Sometimes it refuses stuff, etc. This is just created it like straight away, right? It does seem like any skills that you can install inside Claude or anything like that, it just goes straight away. Ottonari says, it's funny how some still think AI is a passing trend. I went to an interview where they said they don't want people learning AI at all. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, like you got to imagine, like for example, if it's a big enterprise company, like there's so many layers and there's so many people and there's so many layers of approval and everything else that it's going to be really slow for them to be able to use AI and leverage it to its full potential. Whereas, for example, if you're like a solopreneur or you're building your own projects, or maybe you have your own agency or something like that, in those situations, you can move like 100 times faster than any other enterprise, right? Because, for example, you've got like a speedboat instead of like a cruise ship. If you wanted to start using something like Agent Zero or testing out OpenClaw today, you could, and you can move really fast. So I think that is the advantage of being like someone who works online, who watches these sorts of videos, who implements quickly, is like you can learn this stuff and implement it way faster and then get an advantage on everyone else, right? So let's test this out now. I'm going to say, okay, create a podcast about Agent Zero and what it can do. I'm not sure if it's fully aware of itself. So I'm just going to paste in the information from the GitHub first, and then we'll paste that into Agent Zero and see if it can just go off and do that, right? So I'm going to paste that in like so, the information from the GitHub, and just see if it can create a podcast around that, right? So you can see here it's calling the LLM. And you can see it's automatically understood that it has SkillBoss installed, so it can use SkillBoss and this skill right here to generate podcasts. And then it should be able to just go off and use that to generate the output, right? It moves crazy fast. That's what I love about this as well. Now, if we go back, we've got the Pomodoro timer still being created. So that's taking a little bit of time, but that should be ready to go soon. And Noisy said, I'm kind of as up to date as one can be with AI stuff. Just wanted to say thank you for your channel. I would like to know what your setup is for daily use. So for me, honestly, like the thing that if I had to give you the 80-20 for what I use, genuinely, it's like Claude. Claude is like the one that I use day to day. I do have an updated list inside the AI Profit Boardroom, like of the tools that I use day to day and stuff like that. But for me personally, like I love Claude. I love Claude Code. I think the 80/20 of what people need, especially for work related stuff, can be covered by Claude. And I think that's the cool thing about stuff like Agent Zero or OpenClaw is like you can take Claude's API and all the power of that and just instantly plug it into these tools. And that's one of the best things that you can possibly do. Yeah, I think one of the most fun. So we've got the Pomodoro timer here as well. So let's test this out. There we go. We hit start on that. Just make sure it works. So it works perfectly. We can reset that. We can skip it. It's got these cool animations, etc. Look at that. It's got the emojis at the bottom as well. That is looking awesome, right? Actually, do you know what's interesting is I actually used Claude earlier today to create the same thing. And I think if we compare them side by side, I think Agent Zero creates something better, right? So this is an output with Claude Sonnet 4.6 directly. And then this is the same prompt, same app with Agent Zero, right? So I'm just going to open this up on full screen. And like, if you just look at these side by side, right? Pull these up side by side. Which one looks better? I'm genuinely going to say it's this one from Agent Zero versus Claude Code, versus Claude, sorry. So for example, here, if we press start on both of these, this one looks a lot smoother, a lot cooler. I do like the animation that comes with this one. But you see how it collects the sessions at the bottom as well. And then if we click on skip, that creates something cool. But if we click on skip there, this looks way more fun, way more interesting. It's got the emojis at the bottom. It's got like recharge. It's got like the emojis for deep work, etc. The fire emojis. It just looks a lot cooler. So even when you're using like the same thing, you can get better outputs if you're running it through a different agent, which is what we like. Nice says, hey, Julian, if someone wants to be an entrepreneur, which of your videos do you think I should watch before joining the AI Profit Boardroom? I mean, it really depends on like what you're thinking about doing and what you're thinking about creating side by side, right? So like I would the way that I always look at it, this is something that I do personally, is I track all my time, like you can see right here. This is what I've done today. And so you can see here, I track the date, the category, what I'm working on, and then the task and how many minutes I spent on it, right? So if you look at these, you're like, okay, what would be the most efficient thing to automate? And it'd probably be helping with live stream preparation, right? If I could find or create a better tool that helps me with live stream preparation, then automating that would save me the most time because that's what I spend the most time on, right? And so I would do the same with you. I would recommend that you audit your time, figure out where you're spending the majority of your time, and then from there you can research videos on my channel or on YouTube or whatever, and just figure out, okay, what videos are going to help you the most. And that will vary from person to person depending on what you're working on personally. Pieces, we can't see the windows. Hopefully you can. I think we did have them side by side, but yeah. But basically, all you need to know is that Agent Zero creates something better there, right? It looks pretty cool. So just to recap here, we have set it up in the space of like 2 clicks. Literally, you saw me set up the terminal command. You saw me create a new better page for the AI Profit Boardroom. Looked awesome. You saw me create a new app that actually generated better outputs than Claude directly. And then we also created this podcast, which is ready to go now. We can just download that. And we've got the MP3 ready to go right there, right? And so it's super easy to just, it is really clean. It's really easy to use. It doesn't seem to break anywhere near as much as something like OpenClaw. And I would definitely recommend checking out. It's really, really cool. So just to recap, I've shown you what Agent Zero is, how it works, etc. I do have a full guide inside the AI Profit Boardroom to the Agent Zero operator framework. I've shown you 5 things that make it different, but I also have a 30-day guide in here in case you want to master this. So it's got like prompts for each day. So you can really learn how to use this and implement it and that sort of thing. A bunch of use cases here as well, but I've shown you some cool stuff that you can build like apps, tools, games, podcasts, etc. You can create all sorts of crazy stuff with this, right? Now, let's talk about some of the new beliefs that will help you win with this stuff, right? So some people are going to say AI agents, especially stuff hosted locally, is for developers with coding skills. But as you've seen today, like if you can type a sentence, you can run an AI agent, right? Literally all you do is you type in what you want and then it's good to go. Other people would say, well, free tools are always worse than paid ones, right? But I think we've seen this with OpenClaw as well. Is like free and open source often beats expensive SaaS tools because a global community of developers are constantly improving it, right? Like Agent Zero has 34 contributors, 15,000 GitHub stars, major updates. It switched to Claude Sonnet 4.6 as a default model. Like it's pretty powerful stuff. And other people will say as well, I don't have time to learn a new tool right now. There's so much new stuff coming into. But I would say you don't have time not to, right? Like if Agent Zero saves you 2 hours per week, that is 8 hours per month, which is 96 hours per year, right? And learning it took me literally today like 20 minutes to test out. So you can get your time back. And every week you delay is a week that you're still doing stuff manually with what a free agent could do. And that time does not come back, right? So, the busiest people in the world are often the most disciplined learners because they understand that if you just spend like 30 minutes or an hour learning this stuff, you can save 96 hours a year by getting that time back, right? So I would just block maybe 90 minutes or 60 minutes this week, install it, test out, see what you think, see if you like it, etc. Noisy says, I've been working on a project for almost a year and I've kind of hit a wall. I'm not a software developer at all. And I've kind of hit a wall now. Do you find that AI can only get you so far? I don't tend to find that, but I do find like iterating is the best way, right? Um, but usually it's like, if you're struggling with a certain part of your project, usually what I do, and you'll see me do this on live streams all the time, if something breaks, is like I'll paste the error into something like Claude Code and just get Claude Code to fix it, and then I'm good to go from there. So it really depends, and it depends how complex the project is. Like, AI is great for automating simple stuff. Am I going to build like go high level with it? No. So it depends what you're trying to build with it as well directly. Willow says, I'm building next generation AI stuff these days. That's pretty cool. Awesome, man. Awesome. So thanks so much for watching. Just to recap here on everything we've covered today. So what is Agent Zero? Agent Zero is a free open source AI agent framework that runs locally on your computer via Docker. You can browse the internet, write and create code, manage files, spawn sub-agents, and remember everything it learns across sessions, right? Why is it different? Because it's not like ChatGPT where you're just getting text back. You can get it to automate different tasks for you and then you're good to go, right? And then in terms of new beliefs, well, Agent Zero is not just for developers. Free tools often beat paid ones when backed by open source communities. And AI agents don't really replace you, right? They multiply you. Also, you don't need a big team when you have a multi-agent stack. So yeah, that's it. If you want to get a 30-day plan, if you want to get all the video notes from today, plus 100 prompts on how to use and test Agent Zero, we've actually got a list of 100 prompts you can test for this stuff. You can get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom, and the link is inside the comments description, or go to the AIProfitBoardroom.com. We actually update this daily with new guides, like you can see, new videos, new guides, etc. Like you can see right here, I actually did one today as well on OpenClaw mission control, Manus agents versus OpenClaw, new Google anti-gravity updates, etc. Everything that I learn, I share inside this community. And it's just a community focused on saving you time, helping you scale and grow your business, right? There's 2,400 members inside here, which means there's always people online that you can connect with, ask questions, get help and support whenever you want to. And we also have a daily accountability group, like you can see. So you can post your goals, stay laser focused. If you find AI overwhelming or you get shiny object syndrome, you can use this sort of stuff. And then also inside hit the win section, you can see it's not just me that's winning with this, right? So for example, Alexander, he built a prompt machine, which is pretty awesome. You can see, for example, Thomas just got signed with OpenClaw, which is pretty amazing. You've got Scott, who created a winning presentation, and you've got Eric, who said uh, he actually became one of the most efficient people in his network using the AI Profit Boardroom. So feel free to get that link in the comments description or go to aiprofitboardroom.com. We also have weekly coaching sessions, so you can jump on 4 coaching sessions a week, ask questions. If you get stuck with anything, you can ask questions in real time, share your screen, etc. And inside the classroom here too, you can learn how to go from beginner to expert with AI automation, plus learn how to build your first AI agent in under 5 minutes. You can get all my playbooks that I use to market my business. So, for example, like X, how I automate shorts, Twitter, Instagram, AI avatar videos. And then you can get the daily updates inside this section right here, as you can see, right? Additionally, if you want to get more clients, you can check out the agency course. If you want to watch back the coaching calls, you can watch them back here. If you want to learn how to rank #1 with AI SEO, we've got a full section right there. If you want to grow a YouTube channel with AI based on what's working for me, feel free to check out the YouTube section as well. Noisy says, can you help with my project? We don't offer a service for that, but we do have great people inside the community that you can ask, right? So if you get stuck with anything, you can post questions and get help when you need to. And then Willow says, you can build something 10x OpenClaw in less than 5 prompts, which is pretty awesome. Would love to see that. Don't go just yet, peeps. I'm about to compare Claude versus Agent Zero. Agent Zero versus OpenClaw, who wins? So Agent Zero and OpenClaw are 2 of the most powerful free AI agents available right now. And today we are testing them side by side to see which one actually performs better for real people doing real work. Now, both of these tools are completely free and both are incredibly capable. Both work in different ways and they're not built for the same situations, right? So today we're going to be testing them out side by side. OpenClaw lives inside your messages. So for example, I've got it inside Telegram, as you can see right here. It's fast, it's always ready, it fits inside your daily routine. Agent Zero is a completely different level. They do have iOS app that you can use, and it can build its own tools from scratch, spin up helper agents, write code, etc. So today we're going to be just testing them side by side and see which one performs the best. All right. So let's get straight into this. One of the first things I would say is like, from what I've tested, I've set it up today. Took about 2 minutes to set up Agent Zero. It was a lot smoother to set up directly. So one of the things I would say with OpenClaw is like, quite often the APIs can break, or even the gateways can break as well. I'll give you an example. So quite often inside the chat, like the gateway will break on OpenClaw, especially if you're updating it or you're giving it new updates, etc. Whereas, for example, inside Agent Zero, it hasn't broken so far, right? But we're going to test it out side by side and see which one gives us the best results, right? So inside the chat here, I'm going to say, okay, create a beautiful, do you know what? Let's get a prompt from Claude first. So we're going to take this prompt for creating a Trello to-do list, like you can see here. It's quite a long one, so I don't know if it's going to work inside Telegram, but we can try it. If not, I'll just open up the gateway and we can test out there. And then we're going to plug this in inside OpenClaw, and then we'll do the same inside Agent Zero as well. And we'll see which one gives us the best outputs. So if you want to see the full prompt, here's an example of what it looks like. It's quite a complex prompt, as you can see. And then you see how, like, for example, Agent Zero just goes off and starts building it. Whereas, for example, OpenClaw requires us to give a bit of feedback right here, right? So I'm just going to say, just build it and figure this out, right? So already OpenClaw doesn't feel quite as autonomous as something like Agent Zero, which can just go off and build this, but we'll see what we get back in a second. Also, the other thing you're going to see here is like when you're doing this, we can't have like multiple chats with OpenClaw either inside the gateway or inside the Telegram, right? We have to wait for this to be finished. We can create a message, but that will be in a queue. Whereas, for example, inside Agent Zero, we can start a new chat here and we can say, okay, create an image of a cat eating pancakes. And it can work on multiple different tasks at the same time autonomously, right? It's not going to mess around. Whereas if we do the same thing inside OpenClaw, let's see if it can handle that. And also what you can see here is you get a live flow of what's going on, right? So you see how, for example, Agent Zero is just giving us updates on what it's working on, what it's creating, how it's creating it, etc. With OpenClaw, it's not really giving us any updates. It's not really telling us what it's working on or anything like that, right? And so it feels a little bit slower, and you kind of like left there thinking, what's going on? Is it working on it? Is it broken? Is it doing anything, etc.? Mintel says, hey, do you have a video about what models are you using and the costs? Yeah, so what I do is I do videos on like how to run this stuff for free, right? So if you go inside our profit boardroom here and you type in, for example, OpenClaw free, you can see all the free ways that we show you to use OpenClaw for free, right? So there's tons of different trainings on that. That's where I'd recommend looking for stuff like this. Noisy says, is the latest OpenClaw now safer to use as direct install? I think if you want like a safer, more secure version of OpenClaw, then what I would recommend instead is that you use something like, for example, Malt Worker. Malt Worker is a powerful tool. We've got a training on it over here. Let's have a look. Yeah, so you can get a full video guide and step-by-step guide on exactly how to set that up if you want to use something more secure, if that's what you're thinking about. So just to recap here, this is building multiple things at the same time. Also, the interesting thing here as well is that OpenClaw will refuse to generate images. You see here it says, I can't generate images directly inside this chat, but here's a great prompt you can use inside Midjourney, right? Whereas, for example, with Agent Zero, it's creating that image and it's not messing around, right? It's good to go. Now, we've got both of these ready to go. We do have the outputs back on the Kanban board. And here's the other thing. This is kind of silly as well, right? So you can see here, for example, Clawbot OpenClaw says, I've built the Trello board directly right here, right? And here's a link. Now, when we actually go to that link, you can see that it doesn't work, right? It's literally not working, right? And then it tells you what's in there, but it's not showing up and it's not working at all, right? So it failed on the image task and it failed on the Trello task, right? Whereas, for example, if we go back to Agent Zero, you can see it's created the HTML right here. And if we open this up, boom, shakalaka, we have this pretty cool Trello board, right? Look at that, like pretty fun to use, feels good when you use it, etc. And you can switch between these columns, you can test it out, it's working perfectly, right? And so both tasks, Agent Zero doesn't seem to have a problem with. Whereas, for example, OpenClaw, not only does it not do the task, but also it kind of wastes your time because you spend time like trying to figure out, okay, why is that not working, right? So, for example, here, this page doesn't work that it gave us. So if we actually take a screenshot and then we go back to OpenClaw right here, and we're like, okay, this doesn't work, fix it. And then you have to wait for the screenshot to load. It's going to take a little while, and then it's got to figure out what it's doing, etc. And so, like OpenClaw, it's really buggy. It breaks a lot. I'm on the latest update, but it still breaks a lot. I do love the power of it. I'm a big fan of OpenClaw, but in general, it's not as smooth as maybe some YouTubers make out. Like it breaks all the time. It struggles with stuff. Even just uploading a basic screenshot, it can struggle with that sort of thing, right? And we've put this doesn't work, fix it, and OpenClaw has just not even replied to us, right? It's not even come back to us. So we're kind of on our own here, you know? Yeah, this is some of the stuff that maybe you don't see on OpenClaw videos, but it is really powerful to do, to try out, to test out these things side by side and see what performs. So OpenClaw now says it's waiting for the network, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why is it just broken on a live test? Whereas, for example, this has worked perfectly, right? And you can see it's working right here. So I'm going to say again, this doesn't work, fix it. But the point to make here is that OpenClaw is just not as smooth as it should be, right? It's an amazing tool. It's very powerful. It's got a lot of potential. But you can see how much smoother something like Agent Zero is. Now, I actually got a side-by-side guide. Um, here is like, you know, it's actually broken halfway through the live stream. Okay, great. So, I mean, honestly, if I put them side by side, as you can see right here, number one, you get more customization with Agent Zero. Number two, the outputs are really good. Number three, it's a lot more autonomous, aka it does things first time round. And number four, it hasn't broken at all, let alone multiple times, which OpenClaw has, and it's just kind of stuck here. So overall, I'm going to say that Agent Zero is better on the tests that I've done. I've done this test before, and it was the same conclusion back then. I just find OpenClaw is super buggy at times, and I'm pretty sure if you're watching this, you know exactly what I mean if you've tried OpenClaw yourself. So it's something to bear in mind. It's like you can do similar things with Agent Zero. You can do similar things with code. You don't need to use OpenClaw, even though there's a lot of hype around it. So just something to bear in mind there. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, check out the AI Profit Boardroom. We do have a full guide on Agent Zero versus OpenClaw. We also have a full guide and video tutorial on exactly how to set up Agent Zero. So we have a full video tutorial right here, as you can see. And if this is my AI automation community, you can get it linked in the comments description or go to the aiprofitboardroom.com. Inside the community, you can ask questions, get help, get support, meet cool people who are doing similar things to you. You can also join our accountability groups. You can post your questions and your goals and just stay laser focused on them, especially if you struggle with like overwhelm or shiny object syndrome, which a lot of people in AI do, especially when there's so many updates coming out every single day. It's a very active community. You can meet people in your local area, in fact, as well. So on the map, you can see here that we've got all the different locations. So you can zoom in on your location and then DM people, jump in on a Zoom call with them or meet them in real life, etc. We have 4 weekly coaching calls inside the AI Profit Boardroom too. And then inside the classroom here, for example, you can go from beginner to expert with AI automation, plus learn how to build your first AI agent in under 5 minutes. On top of that, you can get my playbooks. So these are the personal playbooks I use to automate my emails, X and Twitter, newsletters, shorts, Instagram, AI avatar videos, etc. Everything is inside there. And then also inside the SOP update section, this is where we add new daily guides, right? So we update this every single day. I think it's one of the most active communities on the planet for AI automation because we're just updating it every single day, as you can see. So every time a new update drops that's important and useful, I share it and I share what I learned, create a guide about it, usually create a 30-day plan as well for mastering these tools and a video tutorial, right? So you can see we update this with new training. Plus, we have a full 6-hour course on OpenClaw if you do love it. Additionally, if you want to learn how to get more clients, you can learn that here. If you want to watch about the coaching calls, you can do that here. If you want to learn how to rank #1 with AI SEO, you can learn that. And then also we have a full roadmap on how to grow a YouTube channel based on what's working for me with AI. So that's all inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Link in the comment description or go to the aiprofitboardroom.com. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it as always. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.